Good afternoon. My name is Sonia Lowen and I am the Chairman of Debating SA. So welcome today for the Grand Final. In 2006, one of our board members went to the Education Minister's office, wrote to them and asked them if we could have our Grand Final here in Parliament House. So that was Sean. Thank you, Sean. Big clap for Sean, I think. I think it's a very fitting thing that we're actually here today in such a lovely place. It's a very august, grand place for a grand final. I'd like to congratulate both teams for getting this far in the competition, because I know that it's been gruelling. Parents would know that, and so would the coaches, because it's been, round 5, quarterfinal, semi-final, and now this. So it's been pretty hectic, but I applaud you on your self-discipline. I think it shows a lot of guts and courage to just keep on going. So I wish you both teams the best of luck. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2025 Year 10 Division Debating Essay Grand Final Debate. My name is Gabriel Freeman, and I am the chairman of this debate. The timekeeper is Oliver Hawks. The topic of this debate is that the decline in global population is cause for concern. The affirmative team seated on my right is from Norwood International High School, consisting of first speaker, Jennifer Looker, second speaker, Claire Lee, and the third speaker, CJ Parkinson. The negative team seated on my left from Concordia College consists of first speaker, Rebecca Lanzali, second speaker, Kaiz Cheng, and the third speaker, Paige Hoare. The grand final debate will be judged by a panel of 5 adjudicators. Ms. Catherine Chor, Ms. Vasily Ivanov, Mr. Ilya Aidman, Ms. Sonia Lowen, and Ms. Ria Siju. The speaking time of this debate is 6 minutes. A signal warning bell will sound at 5 minutes. And the double bell will be sound at 6 minutes. A continuous bell will be rung for 30 seconds after the speaking time, in which case the speaker must sit down immediately. Please switch off your mobile phones and other electronic devices. I declare this debate open and call upon the first affirmative speaker, Jennifer Looker.
Good afternoon, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that the decline in global population is a cause for concern. We, the affirmative team, define the topic using Cambridge Dictionary as decline in global population, a decrease in the total number of the world's human inhabitants. Cause for concern, a reason to be worried or anxious. To provide some additional context, the United Nations Population Fund states that fertility rates in over 55% of all countries have fallen well below replacement level, the level at which a population replaces itself from one generation to the next, traditionally defined as a rate of 2.1 births per woman. According to the UN Population Division, by 2050, the global average will fall beneath replacement. Taking this information into account, we interpret today's topic to mean that the decrease of the world's total population due to an average below replacement fertility rate is a reason to be worried. We, the affirmative team, believe that this statement is undeniably true. Today, I will be talking to you about how population decline impacts economics and welfare. Claire will be talking about global instability and present a case study on population decline in action. CJ will rebut and sum up our team's case. Today, I will discuss 2 points. My first point is that population decline has a negative impact on the economy, which will in turn impact our quality and standard of living. All economies are structured on the expectation of growth in investments, sales, purchases, labour, and productivity, according to Investopedia. Growth means a better standard of living because goods and services are provided more efficiently and more people have access to them. However, according to the American Economic Review, this is all assuming that the global population also grows. Population decline means that economic growth will halt. The Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, states that falling labour force participation in advanced economies is, quote, projected to subtract 0.25 to 0.50 percentage points from annual growth in GDP per capita in many advanced economies over the next 2 decades, end quote. This is because fewer people means fewer workers, fewer taxpayers, fewer consumers, fewer investors, and less productivity and innovation. We can see this impact in action in Japan, where according to a Guardian article published this year, their working age population has fallen by 12% since 2000, as a result of their fertility rate dropping to 1.15, well below replacement, with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, estimating that Japan loses nearly 1% of GDP annually due to population decline, creating a shrinking domestic market. This is reinforced by the Reserve Bank of Australia, who state that falling populations lead to declines in demand and reduced specialisation of the workforce, along with an ageing bottleneck population, which reduces quality of life and productivity and thus output. The World Economic Forum elaborates on this, warning that, quote, an ageing workforce will lead to shrinking economies and declining living standards, end quote, as more and more people stop working and retire without anyone to replace them. Furthermore, while young populations drive creativity, entrepreneurship, and technological breakthroughs, ageing populations become risk-averse and stagnant. Research from Stanford and MIT shows younger societies generate more patents and high-growth firms, while ageing ones see innovation slow. Instead of enjoying higher living standards, shrinking societies divert wealth into care, leaving less for innovation, infrastructure, and future investment. Economies and their growth rely on people. When populations decline, local, national, and global economies weaken. When it comes to the economy, the very backbone of globalized society, the decline in global population is absolutely a cause for concern. Now to my second point. Aging populations resulting from population decline will strain healthcare and welfare systems. Declining populations mean older populations. The World Health Organization states that by 2050, the world's population of people aged 60 years and older will double. The World Economic Forum states that this will raise demand for healthcare, while the number of healthcare workers and providers will decrease. We already have a problem with ramping in just this country alone. How will these systems handle the increased pressure? Workers will have higher workloads, while patients experience worse care. Declining populations also leave fewer young people supporting more retirees. According to the OECD, in 2000, there were 4 workers per retiree in over 100 countries. By 2050, this will fall to just 2 workers per retiree, and this has drastic implications, such as higher taxes on fewer young workers, cuts to benefits for retirees, and exploding government debt. The IMF warns that public pension spending in advanced economies will rise by 2 to 4% of GDP by 2050, even with reforms. Governments will likely be forced to raise retirement ages, reduce payouts, or privatise pensions. Fewer taxpayers means governments will either have to spend less and/or cut costs, or working individuals will have to pay more taxes to keep up, if not both. Population decline locks societies into a future of shrinking workforces, ballooning pensioning costs, and overstretched healthcare, creating intergenerational inequality and long-term fiscal stress. The decline in global population is most definitively a cause for concern. So, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, it is undoubtedly clear that the decline in global population is a massive cause for concern. It will damage global economies and put massive strain on healthcare and welfare systems, resulting in worsened standards of living. Thank you.
I call upon the first negative speaker, Rebecca Lanzilli.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for today's debate is that the decline in global population is cause for concern. We agree with the definition given by the affirmative team. However, we, the negative team, undoubtedly believe that this statement is false. The affirmative team has argued that the decline in global population can impact the economy negatively. According to the International Union for Scientific Study of Population, Finland, ranked the happiest country in the world, has a low fertility rate of just 1.4 per woman. Despite this, it maintains high standards of living and strong social systems. And according to a study conducted by Cornell University, long-term prosperity depends more on how societies invest in education, skills, and technology, not just the amount of people they have. That is why the decline in global population is not cause for concern. The negative team has argued that the decline in global population can lead to strain on the welfare and healthcare systems. According to the website Educating Americans, population decline is a pathway to sustainable progress and cites that declines in Japan's population has improved housing affordability and rising wages. The Japanese government introduced policies to encourage older adults to remain in the workforce and doubled spending on childcare-related programs. This sustained taxation and welfare and healthcare systems. Ladies and gentlemen, the affirmative team has focused on fear tactics about how the economy and systems are going to be pressured. However, we, the negative team, will focus our arguments on evidence and statistics. As first speaker, I will be arguing 3 key points. That current UN and Australian forecasts projected growth in global population for the next 200 years, that there are environmental benefits should there be a decline in global population, and that countries can adapt to declining populations through migration policy and global cooperation. Our second speaker will responsibly argue that society benefits from the decline in global population and that technological solutions are available to sustain society and the economy. Our third speaker will rebut and summarise our team's case. Now to my first argument, that the decline in global population is not a cause for concern because according to the Australian Government Centre for Population and the United Nations 2024 World Population Prospects, the world's population is projected to continue to grow from the current global population of 8.2 billion people to 10.2 billion by 2100, and then to 10.4 billion by 2200. This means that the highest global population will remain at its highest levels in history for the next 200 years. Even Australia is contributing to this growth, with Australia's population forecast to rise from 26 million today to 43 million by 2100. While China, Europe, Russia, Japan, and South America are projected to face declines in population, these are not enough to onset a decline in global population. There are about 8.2 billion people today, and in 100 to 200 years, there will be over 10 billion people. That is why the decline in global population is not cause for concern. Now to my second point. Should the UN's current projection change and that global populations does in fact decline, this is not cause for concern because it can bring crucial environmental benefits. According to the UN's environmental program, rapid population growth is one of the main causes of resource depletion, climate change, and environmental damage. The UN further states, should the global population begin to decline, there would be reduced demand for water, energy, raw materials, reduced land clearings and deforestation, fewer carbon emissions, and reduced strain on ecosystems. Ladies and gentlemen, the list goes on. The Lancet Planetary Health Study, conducted in 2023, explains that shrinking populations will help humanity stay within its environmental limits, and avoid the worst impacts of climate change. That is why the decline in global population is not cause for concern. My third and final argument is that the decline in global population is not cause for concern because governments can adjust their migration policies and promote global cooperation. According to the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, migration already accounts for the majority of population growth in many advanced economies today. Europe, the USA, Canada, Singapore and Australia have long used skilled migration programs to boost their workforce and sustain growth. New immigrants or guest workers increase the size of their labour force, countering its decline. That is why the decline in global population is not cause for concern. In summary, there is no evidence of global population decline for the next 200 years. And should there be a decline in global population, this will bring benefits to the environment and can be successfully managed through government migration policy and global cooperation. In conclusion, we, the negative team, absolutely disagree that the decline in global population is cause for concern. Thank you.
I call upon the second affirmative speaker, Claire Lee.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that the decline in global population is a cause for concern. We, the affirmative team, undoubtedly believe that this statement is true. The negative team thinks that decline will be good for the environment. However, we regret to inform them that the climate horse has already bolted. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change in 2023 indicated that even if humanity was wiped out entirely today, it is not enough to prevent the consequences of climate change from occurring. Furthermore, population decline weakens the nations driving sustainability solutions. Germany has a fertility rate of 1.35, Denmark 1.5, Sweden 1.45, and Japan 1.2. These are all countries that lead the world in sustainable practices. However, the World Bank shows that Japan, with one of the lowest birth rates in the world, is already being impacted by its inability to sustain large-scale renewable energy projects. They have also tried to tell you that we can just bring in immigrants and that immigration can be used to balance population decline. They are wrong. The UN population report points out that when young, fertile women from countries with high replacement rates immigrate to countries with low replacement rates, their fertility lines up more closely to the country that they have immigrated to. Immigration is not a magic bullet for solving issues related to global population decline at all. Jennifer, our first speaker, has already explained the economic and healthcare pressures caused by global population decline. I have 2 points. My first point is population decline will drastically impact global stability. Countries with declining populations face shortages in military recruitment. According to the Asahi Shimbun, quote, the Japanese SDF's enlistment rate in fiscal 2023 sank to a record low 50.8% of its target, end quote, which Japan's defense ministry directly attributed to low birth rates. Make no mistake, global population decline is a serious threat to global security. Military strength isn't just about fighting wars, it underpins alliances, deterrence, and disaster response. When military undermining becomes widespread, the world doesn't become more peaceful, it becomes more fragile, because the very systems designed to prevent crisis lose their credibility and capacity. Now, you may be thinking, global decline isn't uniform, so what happens to the countries that are going to maintain or exceed the replacement rate initially? Well, countries predicted to keep growing despite global decline trends are primarily located in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. The Kenya Times stated in 2024 that the number of African youths aged 15 to 24 is projected to grow by 63% by 2050 in a phenomenon called a youth bulge, which leads to high unemployment rates, limited access to education, resource scarcity, and social and political unrest. Now, maybe this is where the NATO peacekeeping forces or the UN Blue Helmets can provide aid. Oh wait, except they won't be able to due to inadequate numbers caused by low birth rates. Demographic trends associated with global population decline will inevitably interact with security, governance, and stability. And because we, the Affirmative, advocate for balance and stability, we are proud to stand by the statement that the declining global population is a cause for concern. Now to my second point, a case study in population decline. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand here today as a proud South Korean. Since the 80s, my country has had a colossal decline in birth rate, and as of 2023, according to Dr. Jin-Yu Kim, its total fertility rate fell to 0.65, the lowest globally, even below that of war-torn Ukraine. The BBC states that if this trend continues, the population of 50 million could halve in 60 years. Korea provides us with a crystal ball for global population decline. Korea has had to allocate over 95 trillion Australian dollars in 2025 alone for policies to try to mitigate low birth rates and a hyper-aging population, which meant cuts from foreign affairs, diplomacy, science and IT, and Ministry of Employment sectors. The Korean government has gone so far as resorting to offering $110,000 baby bonuses and free houses to new families in an attempt to raise birth rates. Why? Because industries and the economy are under severe pressure in all of the ways Jennifer has mentioned. Plus, entire cities are being erased, literally. The Korean Ministry of Public Administration and Security outlines 89 cities that are on the road to extinction, one of which is Korea's second largest city, Busan. According to the CNA, Busan is, quote, facing extinction, end quote, with tremendous declines in industry and infrastructure. Additionally, 52 of these cities are agricultural hubs for food like rice, Korea's main staple, leading to an increased reliance on imports to meet rice demands, which, according to the Foreign Agricultural Service, are liable to trade disputes, global markets, and export restrictions. Everything is going downhill, and it will only get worse. Korea is our forecast for the devastating consequences we will all face if global population is in decline. If this is a case for just one country, imagine it on a global scale. So, Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, a quote from historian C. Northcote Parkinson: "Delay is the deadliest form of denial. We must not deny to acknowledge that the decline in global population is a massive cause for concern." Thank you.
I call upon the second negative speaker, Kezai Cheng.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for today's debate is that the decline in global population is cause for concern. We, the negative team, assure you that this statement is undeniably false. I will now disprove the affirmative team's arguments. Your second affirmative speaker has tried to tell you that the decline in global population is cause for concern because there will be global instability. However, power doesn't come from population size. It comes from technology, strategy, and alliance. Take nations like Japan, as your second affirmative speaker has brought up, who, according to the BBC, yes, have had their population fall by over 900,000 people last year. Yet, it remains the fifth largest economy in the world, according to the International Monetary Fund. Moreover, the Munich Security Conference reports that Japan has also maintained its geopolitical power by acquiring long-range missile deterrence and collaborating with NATO. Clearly, even with population decline, nations maintain strength and security. This is why the decline in global population is not a cause for concern. The affirmative team has tried to tell you that the decline in South Korea is the South Korean population is a concern. This is wrong. The affirmative team is not addressing the debating topic and using this argument as a deflection tactic, as the global population is not in decline. They're using this one example to forecast the entirety of the world. We, the negative team, will only focus our arguments on facts and evidence. As our first speaker has already exquisitely declared, the decline in global population is not a cause for concern because credible forecasts, like the United Nations, project continued population growth over the next century. Even if decline were to occur, it would be beneficial for the current state of our environment, reducing strain on resources, and governments would manage demographic shifts through migration policies. Today, I'll be talking to you about 2 points. My first point is that the decline in global population is not a cause for concern because of the extensive societal benefits it brings. The basis priority in Abraham Maslow's renowned hierarchy of needs is one's physiological needs, which includes food, shelter, water, clothing, and air. According to the World Health Organization, over 2.4 billion people lacked safe water services globally in 2020. Over 1 billion people lived in inadequate housing in 2023. 9.7% of the global population went hungry in 2024. What is the common factor over here, ladies and gentlemen? Overpopulation. The UN states that the strain of such resources like food and water and the quick spread of deadly diseases are caused by overpopulation and overcrowding. A decline in global population will not be our downfall. It'll be our chance to satisfy humanity's most basic needs. Additionally, journalist Stephen Sinding writes in the National Library of Medicine that a decline in population would reduce the ratio between working-age adults and dependents. The article continues to state how population decline reduces job competition, resulting in increased financial stability, leading the world to a better economic state. As you may recall, our first speaker, Rebecca, talked to you about how global population hasn't truly begun to decrease yet. However, according to the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, certain nations like South Korea have seen notable decline. Scholar Jong-hyuk Kim writes that smaller classes in South Korea resulted in 69.7% of students completing high education, well above the global average of 40.7%. The International Institute of Applied Systems Analysis writes that a smaller, more educated population doesn't just function better, they become stronger, faster, and more resilient in the face of disasters, conflict, and disease. We, as a human race, can become unbreakable, and that's just the start. Journalist Stephanie Fieldstein notes that population decline propels gender equity, stronger public health, inclusivity, and more. There are simply so many benefits, I couldn't list them all in this 6-minute speech even if I tried, which is exactly why global population decline is not a cause for concern. My second point is that the decline in global population would push the development of new technology. According to Human and Earth Systems couple research, smaller global populations are more flexible, making it easier to adopt and spread new technology quickly. The International Monetary Fund writes that with fewer people around the globe, resources previously spent on housing, infrastructure, and care would now be unneeded for those purposes and be redirected to research and development. Technological advancements would supercharge our society. The Journal of Economic Behavior and Organization describes how robotics would boost our manufacturing, agriculture, transport, and service industries. We would be 10 times more efficient. The World Economic Forum states how AI tools like remote health monitoring and diagnostic systems would be vital in improving healthcare. A decline in global population opens the door for a plethora of successes and breakthroughs. Calling global population decline a cause for concern is just untrue. It's ignoring the fact that humanity would actually technologically thrive. So, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, the affirmative team wants you to believe that having less people will be a worrisome circumstance. But we, the negative team, have proven the opposite. With fewer people, there is more room, not just physically, but more room to thrive in opportunities for both new technology and a society. This is why the decline in global population is not a cause for concern. Thank you.
I call upon the third affirmative speaker, CJ Parkinson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for this debate is that the decline in global population is cause for concern. We, the affirmative team, believe that this statement is true. The first affirmative speaker has tried to claim that population will simply be good for the environment. Well, it will not. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change in 2023, even if all of humanity today were to be wiped out, climate change would still be in effect. Lowering populations actually means less workers, less people able to implement the infrastructure, and, as our first speaker indicated, an economy that prioritizes more on healthcare rather than climate change policies, as shown in Japan, another declining nation that, with one of the lowest birth rates in the world, is already having its impact in not being able to sustain large renewable energy products. The first affirmative speaker has also tried to claim that simply migration can fix it, that by having more immigrants, we are able to sustain our global population. Migration doesn't change the overall global population. It increases the population of one country from another. If John Doe from country A moves to country B, country A loses one person and country B gains one. That's a net zero. And as global population declines in its fertility rates, we are actually losing more people. And after every single country becomes below replacement rates, as the UN has predicted, then what will happen? We'll be in a net -1. The first affirmative speaker has also tried to claim that Finland is a great example as to why we should not be concerned. Economic growth under capitalism cannot happen with population decline, as stated by our first speaker. Our national and global economy requires stability through replacement at worst and growth for prosperity at best. Decline will put us into an economic dangerous zone. And even if we were to try to replicate Finland's economic structure, we cannot simply fix the economy without deep coordinated change across finance, politics, institutions, and everyday life. The change itself is cause for concern, as it would impact every single facet of daily life and face pushback. The negative team has also tried to claim that population decline simply does not exist, although they did agree to our definition that it fundamentally would have to. According to the OECD, in 2000, there were 4 workers per retiree in over 100 countries. By 2050, this will fall just to 2 workers. This is a decline. The number of global population doesn't have to go down from the big 8 billion to be declining, to not be rising as the amount, to be able to reach a pinnacle. The second negative speaker has also tried to claim that power does not come from the population through military, rather than technology and strength, though we offer this. Who will be the innovators that develop this technology? Who build it? Who will be the power in the military if many countries, according to NATO, are not even able to fulfill their quotas? Australia is 1,000 people below than what we wanted, than what we needed. While young populations drive creativity and entrepreneurship and technological breakthroughs, aging populations are more risk-averse and stagnant. How can we expect this new technology if there aren't going to be people to build it? They also claimed that we were simply using South Korea as one country to indicate what the rest of the world is like. What we say is Korea is ahead of the world, not necessarily in its technology, but rather in the danger that we are foreseeing. Rather, we should be using Korea as an example of what we might face one day, of the losing cities. And to quote to rebut an overall trend within the negative team, the UN Population Division states that by 2050, the global average will fall beneath replacement. This means that the population will decline. And that's still, of course, a cause for concern, regardless of whether it happens tomorrow or 200 years from now. The second negative speaker has also said that 9.7% of the population went hungry. We agree that this is terrible, and they attributed this to global rise in population. We, the affirmative team, are not fond of overpopulation, nor are we fond of underpopulation. We are aiming for the 2.1 fertility rate. We think that both are bad, as well as the fact that as the UN declines in its numbers and the amount of people who are able to provide support, will more or less people go hungry in populations that are growing if the countries that are declining are not able to properly fund and fill the ranks of those who can assist? Another overall point was that the first speaker talked about how climate change would be helped, whilst the second speaker talked about AI and technology. The negative team has stated that automation and AI will be able to replace these workers. However, the Institute of Energy and Resources cites that AI models continue to consume enormous amounts of fossil fuels-based electricity, significantly contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. Plus, the need for advanced cooling systems in AI data centers, which also increase water consumption. Now to my summary. Jennifer spoke to you about the lowered standards of living as a result of shrinking economies and the extra burden on healthcare systems from an aging population. Claire told you that global population declines means disruption in balance, as declining nations are not meeting military recruitment targets, and those that will grow before they decline are faced with the likelihood of instability due to youth bulges. She also presented Korea as a shocking case study of what can happen as population declines, in a haunting portent for our future. So, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, our team has demonstrated through case studies and evidence that the decline in global population because of falling fertility rates is indeed a cause for concern. Concern for our future workforce, for our children's opportunities, for our parents' rights to retirement, and for the quality of life we will all share in the years to come. Progress belongs to those who anticipate tomorrow's challenges, not those who deny that they exist. Thank you.
I call upon the third negative speaker, Paige Hoare.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for today's debate is that the decline in global population is cause for concern. We, the negative team, without a doubt believe that this statement is false. The affirmative team have tried to argue that the damage to the climate cannot be undone. While this may be true, a decrease in population will decrease pollution rates, and at the very least, slow climate deterioration. The affirmative team have failed to explain that the decline in global population is cause for concern because of its impact on the economy. This is false because the population is not declining, and this will not happen anytime in the foreseeable future. Even if it was declining, economies can adapt and productivity can offset population loss. Automation, robotics, and AI can compensate for fewer workers. According to Klaus Pretner of WU, Vienna University of Economics and Business, estimates show that a 1% fall in population growth is associated with a 2% rise in growth of robot density. And, as our second speaker has already explained, technology expansion and migration can both boost workforces and sustain economic growth. The affirmative team have failed to explain that the decline in global population is cause for concern because it will cause a decline in access to goods and services. This is false because economies and society can adapt through automation and AI reskilling. In fact, many countries are already investing heavily in smart technologies and workforce training to ensure essential services remain stable despite demographic changes. For example, research shows that AI-powered systems are improving healthcare delivery, transport efficiency, and public infrastructure management, even in regions with ageing or shrinking populations, according to the World Economic Forum 2024. By embracing innovation and targeted reskilling programs, societies can maintain and even enhance the quality of services provided. The Affirmative team have failed to explain that the decline in global population is cause for concern because it will cause a strain on the older generation and on healthcare. This is false because if the global population declines, the increase in AI and automation will offset this, as I've already explained. An example of this is in the healthcare industry itself, where robots and AI can assist with patient care, medication management, and medical procedures. The future decline in population can spur the development of new products and service tailored to an older population, as explained by Grant Verlaine. The Affirmative team have tried to tell you that the decline in global population is cause for concern because it takes a toll on the military. They claimed it would weaken military, posing safety risks. However, this is false because military strength does not necessarily just depend on numbers, but technology. Advanced technology, intelligence, and automation are more reliable than just the sheer size of armies. Nations like Israel or South Korea have smaller populations, but their advanced militaries remain highly capable and influential, as stated by Ankel Voha. A country's power in the 21st century is measured less by the population size and more by technological superiority, strategic alliances, and innovation. The Affirmative team have tried to argue that a decrease in fertility rates is cause for concern. However, ladies and gentlemen, that is not the topic. The topic is that the global population decrease is cause for concern, not fertility. Although the fertility rates are dropping, the same source that states this, United Nations, also states that the global population will increase despite this fact. The Affirmative team have also argued that, although it's not happening now, the population decrease could decrease in the future as it is in Korea. This argument is flawed because we can't predict the future. Basing an argument on uncertain future scenarios is speculative and weak. Our first speaker, Rebecca, spoke to you about the fact that the population is not declining. It is actually increasing. According to the United Nations 2024 World Population Prospects, the global population is projected to increase to 10.3 billion in 2084. Making this topic completely false. She also mentioned that, assuming the global population is in decline and the UN's projection is wrong, there will be major environmental benefits. Our second speaker, Keziah, mentioned that, also assuming the population is in decline despite the United Nations prediction, the potential decline is not cause for concern because of societal benefits, like reduced congestion, more access to food, as well as better access to healthcare and education. She also spoke about how the decline in population will push for the development of new technologies. So, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we, the negative team, believe that the decline in global population is not at all a cause for concern, since it is not projected to happen anytime in the next 100 years. In fact, we're projected to reach 10 billion people, as already stated by our second speaker. And if it were happening, there are both societal and environmental benefits of a decrease in population, as well as technological solutions to offset any labour shortages. Less people does not mean less progress. It means a smarter and much stronger future. Therefore, we, the negative team, firmly believe that the decline in global population is not a cause for concern because it simply just isn't happening. Thank you.
Congratulations to both Year 10 teams for their outstanding debate. I hope you enjoyed every debate this season and especially making your way through the final series. It's a particular testament, as Ms Sloan mentioned in her opening speech, for you to make it here, and we hope you enjoyed debating at Parliament House. We especially hope that you continue to debate into your Year 11 and 12 periods in schooling, and we understand that's a particularly busy time, but also a time when debating becomes particularly enjoyable. As 5 adjudicators came to an independent result, there will not be individual feedback. The adjudicators came to a split decision 4-1. The team that won the debate today is the Affirmative team. Congratulations. There'll be an opportunity for photos after the debate and also to present the winning trophy. Thank you.
I call upon the member of the runner-up team to give a vote of thanks.
We'd like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Norwood International High School for such an excellent and rigorous debate this afternoon. We'd also like to thank the people who made our debating journey possible, our coach, our dedicated teachers, our supportive parents and families, our friends, and even our pets. To the audience, thank you for your encouragement and for sharing in the spirit of this debate. Finally, a special thank you to the chairman, timekeeper, and adjudicators for facilitating this debate, and to Debating SA for creating opportunities like this where young people like us have the opportunity to debate. We are very grateful for the opportunity to practice, and we are very excited for another debating season next year. Thank you.
I call upon the member of the winning team for a second vote of thanks.
First and foremost, I would love to thank my team for the continued effort that we have put in throughout this entire season. I know how many late nights, lunch times, and afternoons we have sacrificed for this, and I'm proud of you. We would also like to thank our parents, guardians, friends for attending here, driving us, and putting up with us. We would like to thank the negative team, Concordia, for an incredible debate. We would also like to thank our coach, Miss Betteridge, for, as well as putting up with us, the adjudicators, as well as Debating SA for the opportunities that they have presented to us. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance. I now declare this debate closed.